Welcome back to another episode of Positively Uncensored, your favorite reality TV and interview podcast. It's your host, Leah, and today we are going to be diving into Peacock's new hit series that has been trending everywhere, All Her Fault. If you have not seen this new show starring Succession's Sarah Suk, you need to get on it immediately. If you're the type of person who doesn't mind spoilers and you like to watch a show knowing fully what's coming, or if you've already seen the show and you just want further commentary, or if you're not planning to watch the show because you're just a little bit too busy right now, but you'd still like to know what all this hubbub is about. I'm going to summarize the season, talk about some underlying themes that I spotted as I watched, and throw out some general questions to all of you on what your perception was, and also just leaving my comments open to share any experiences you have that you felt were represented on screen. Before we dive into this series, I just some general housekeeping. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Also, please leave a comment, like this video. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please make sure that you leave me a review. I'm trying to combat still a lot of the negative reviews that I've been getting because I include politics in my show and provide nuanced commentary. So, anybody that helps combat that and anybody who helps me get the podcast out, I'm super appreciative to all of you. Before we dive into the show, I thought it would be helpful for us to familiarize ourselves with the cast. If you didn't watch, this will be especially helpful. But if you're like me and just bad at characters' names, or you're watching so many shows, let's get an idea. Sarah Snook, I just realized I've been saying her name wrong, and this is why we pull it up, not Sarah Sooks. Whoops. So Sarah Snook. I'm going to get this wrong the entire episode. Sarah Snook, husband Peter, and then Dakota Fanning's character who plays Jenny. There are also some smaller characters that we see less screen time of, but play a large portion in the show. So we have Sophia Lillis, who plays Carrie, and she just looks like Carrie. Dina, who plays Detective McConnell. I feel like he is always playing a detective when I see him. We also have Jay Ellis, who plays Colin. Leah, played by Abby Elliott, not played by me. And then Daniel Monks is important as we talk about the show, and you'll get it. I want to let you guys know ahead of time that I'm recording on a different service platform this time. And typically I would edit out mistakes that I make. But if you notice an abundance of mistakes or just some general awkwardness, please bear with me because honestly, I'm just going to keep them in because every time that I make a mistake in the first 5 minutes of the podcast, I have a tendency to just scrap the entire thing and re-record. And this is actually my sixth time trying to record this podcast episode. So I'm just going to keep it moving and keep it going, even if I lose my wording along the way. But what I liked about this show so much is on the surface, this is just another show about a missing kid and the parents' reactions. Specifically, this show was about a wealthy couple whose son seemingly vanished on a play date at his classmate's house. Episode by episode, we are asking ourselves as viewers, is the series title All Her Fault going to be indicative of who did this? Is it Dakota Fanning? Is she somehow malicious, even though she seems very sweet? Is it the elderly woman whose house Marissa showed up to, hoping to find her son and Dakota Fanning, and instead finding this old sweet lady? Is it the PTA mom who's rather bitchy and judgmental of other moms in the group and is in charge of pickup and drop off and should have asked? But very quickly, and I'm talking episode 1, as a woman watching, it just becomes obvious that this is not going to be any her's fault. This is going to be about men who leave every responsibility and obligation to their wife, to their wives, and who make everything that happens her fault. So that was very obvious from episode 1. Some general themes, because there's a lot of it, okay? I'm going to start general and then go specific. We have classism present in this show. We have ableism present in this show. We have the demonstration of what it looks like to hoard resources, which is really just another level of classism, but we just get to see, like I said, the exclusive hoarding of resources exclusively reserved for the elite. Another underlying theme is just misogyny in general. The idea that a woman's career is never as important as her husband's, or that a woman should not be the breadwinner. We see weaponized male incompetence. Dakota Fanning's husband set me off, all the way off, all the way off. Okay. Oh, I just turned that on. All the way off. I already said that. Women in solidarity. Like, at times, not at times, I'm critical of white feminism and how white women show up in their friendships. I think that seeing this friendship on screen, and specifically in this such a tumultuous situation, I thought this was a beautiful representation of what women's friendship and what women standing in solidarity supporting each other could look like. There's an underlying theme of a mother's intuition. Carrie just knew that that was her baby. She knew that that was her baby. She had it confirmed, but she knew because she heard cries and was gaslit into not finding her infant alive in the back seat. We see themes of substance abuse and how emotional pain can sometimes be the onset of that. We see mom shaming, the bitchy PTA mom who, like I said, was so judgmental towards moms who only have one child, and believed that they had all the free time in the world or that they should volunteer more. She was just generally mom shaming of the moms around her. Why would she allow somebody else to pick up her kid? Yeah, she called me and asked me too, as if a woman asking for help is the worst thing in the world, but the husband can just work away at the office and never have to worry about arriving for carpool, canceling a meeting, getting their child to school on time. And I don't mean all men, but we're talking about this show. And I kind of do mean all men. But now taking a deeper look into things, like I said, this is the summary. I am not going episode by episode. I'm just talking about the things that stood out to me, and hopefully it'll remind me to talk about things. Can't promise they'll be in chronological order. So we note that Peter Irvine, very early in this show, is a controlling and seemingly compulsive husband. He seems that he's helping everyone around him while silently, sometimes not silently, both relying and stoking their dependence on him. And we see several examples of this in the show. We see that he's financially taking care of his unpredictable sister, whom is in and out of rehab and struggling with substance abuse. Why is she struggling with substance abuse? Because her entire life, she thought that she was just a bad egg. She thought that she was the person to blame for her brother becoming disabled. She thought that at 6 years old, she caused this accident. She's always worn the guilt for it. And in reality, towards the end of the series, we find out that it was Peter. And I'm going to tell you this. I knew, because I could tell the direction that this show was going and who the real problems in this show were, that Peter did that shit immediately. First of all, what's this guy's name? Jake Lacey. Jake Lacey, he never plays a good person. Are you kidding? Did you see him on White Lotus? I can't recall what else he was in, but yeah, absolutely not. I knew he wasn't going to be a good person. And then it was just the fact of I could see a kid tripping their brother during tag, them not winning, or them thinking that it would be funny and not understanding how the situation could end. But you question Has Peter been evil the entire time? Do I think that he tripped him intentionally knowing that he would get hurt and that this would, impact him for the rest of his life? No, I don't. But do I think that he consciously made the decision to never speak up and then allow his sister to feel guilty and then further that guilt by saying things that make her sure that she caused this blame even though she was 6 years old? Yes. So, yeah, he allowed his sister to take the blame for his brother's injury while paying for her to go in and out of substance abuse and also relying on her to never get better. Like he could never let her be free of the guilt. It was always something that he reminded her of. You did this. This is your fault. To keep her in this cycle of self-sabotage or seeking outside methods to soothe herself or to placate the pain, if you will. So then we also see it, the controlling and compulsive husband, in letting his brother move in with him, seemingly giving him his own wing of the house, seemingly going out to find the best medical practitioners and trying to get him to be in a medical trial while secretly knowing that his brother is a candidate for this medical trial and telling him differently, telling him that he's not, because he's relying on the fact that his brother will need him more and need help being taken care of if he is not able to get better, while also shaming his brother for being in his home and making it sound like he could never take care of himself. He could never have the drive to go get a job. He enjoys not doing anything and relying on him. That couldn't be further from the truth. It was also just so it was so sad and so disturbing, but also so accurate in how a man like Peter would talk, that he talked down to his brother anytime he would use his chair. He wanted him to use his cane and walk upright despite the constant pain and suffering he was in to do that because of how it looked, because of the optics, because he wanted him to want to be this strong macho man who's not taken down by anything. Um, so like I said, he was actually a candidate for this trial. He lied to him. He tripped his brother. He let his sister think that it was her fault while he's taking care of them financially, keeping them in his home, seemingly looking after them because that's always been his role. And he's manipulating every single person around him, including his wife, whom he helped when she was unconscious after their car accident by swapping her infant, whom was dead on site, with the other car who they hit, who he heard a crying baby from. And it's this decision that sets in motion the entire plot of this show. Everything is his fault. And there were so many layers to this, right? Like Carrie is a young mother by herself because her and her husband were living under a bridge in a motor home. They didn't have their own home. They didn't have the resources to live in a mansion like Peter Irvine and his wife. And yet, her husband and her were trying to do everything they could to still have the resources to try to have enough to have this baby, to support this baby, which ultimately ends her husband in jail, which is why she is traveling home alone from the hospital and ultimately ends up in this car accident. And so, yeah, Peter making the decision to go over there and swap babies. I have multiple questions. First of all, is there anybody who's listening? I'm so curious people's opinions. If you're Peter, what would you have done? Is there anybody listening who thought that that was a rational thing? I can't get past the fact that his baby, their baby, the body is there, and he just lets his wife secretly not have closure and not bury her baby while also taking away closure from this other woman. And he says that he thought that she was dead. What do you guys think? Tell me in the comments. Do you think that he really thought she was dead? Was this his only pure intention? Was this a pure yet demonic act? Do you think he was really trying to protect his wife? Do you think that he really thought that the mother was dead? I'm so curious. Please let me know your thoughts. But ultimately, this decision, like I said, is what led to the trickle down of the kidnapping of his son by Carrie, whom always knew that her baby was alive because she was starting to wake up, although unmoving and unconscious, and heard her baby's cry, but never had any confirmation from anybody. Her own parents thought that she was crazy for this. Um, the death of Leah's boyfriend, whom was also his wife's business partner. And I don't even recall how he ended up dying because it was so unprecedented. I think it happened when Carrie came in somehow. The death of the young girl, Carrie, because he just murders her in cold blood to try to prevent the voice recording that her father had taken. Her father and her husband, or maybe it was boyfriend, but her partner. All of this as a result of his split-second decision and selfish decision in that moment to swap babies. I believe a piece of him when he says to her, she could have never given him the life that we did. I believe a piece of him that's another layer of the classism. He saw her, a young mother, thought that she wouldn't be a fit mother, assumed that because of the car she was driving and the clothes she was wearing, like she wasn't well off and he couldn't have a good life, made assumptions about her. I think it's more likely that drove that decision, that he doesn't see. I think you would argue that Peter Irvine would be the type of person that wouldn't see a homeless person as a human being. Like that's how I look at him. Like he doesn't seem like a real member of society. He seems like. I also ultimately thought that after all of this happened, when they were standing on the stairs, that he was going to push Marissa down the stairs and just make the decision for her, that they're never going to say anything about this incident. But the ending was just such poetic justice because, again, the weaponized male incompetence. She's had to manage his allergy for him the entirety of their relationship. He doesn't pick up his dry cleanings. He doesn't pick up his prescriptions. He doesn't throw away his prescriptions when they are expired. He doesn't put an EpiPen for himself and his own lungs that could collapse in his own pocket. Marissa did all of that for him. So, managing his allergy, and I knew she was going to do it. I knew that she was going, as soon as she walked in the house and went inside that red box, actually, as soon as she had the suit, I'm like, oh, it's the EpiPen. And so then the kiss with the soy, he deserved it. He absolutely deserved it. Moving away from the main couple, though, Dakota Fanning, who plays Jenny in this series, seemingly has like a very high ranking, high paid job. It looks like her job is to scout authors and sign them to her publishing company. And then if she signs an author, that they now own the rights to all their prior novels, all their future novels. Like she has herself a cash cow. But it seems very stressful and very demanding, especially compared to her husband, who I love teachers and respect teachers, but her husband is a teacher for biology or anatomy or science, and the kids think that he's boring. Okay. So they have two very different jobs. And yet, her job, which is more lucrative for the both of them, and getting them that house and the right to go to this private school, which, by the way, they go to this school where nobody is supposed to pick up anybody at pickup or drop off except for people who are like approved or who go to the school. There's not supposed to, or there are there nannies and everybody knows the nannies. Like it's this very like everything is exclusive and elitist in this series. So he has access to that, by the way, because of his wife. But their relationship enraged me. Like, first of all, she's having to cancel meetings or call him and beg him to babysit their child so that she can wrap up on a meeting, which again will guarantee them success. Then she gets this author. He's not excited for her. He's like, wow, he doesn't pop the champagne. He doesn't offer to take her to dinner because the reality is he resents that. He resents that. He thinks that it emasculates him. He allows it to emasculate him. He has no confidence in himself. And it's interesting because you're awfully bold to require so much of her when you do so little. So when we find out that she's doing drop off and pickup and that, she's getting looked at for to be the blame in the situation because the whole play date was supposedly with her. The text came from Jenny's phone, not really though, but it came from Jenny's phone. Actually, yes, Carrie ended up being Jenny's nanny. So there was even the blame that Jenny had hired Carrie. The husband tried it, other people from the school tried it. But so, anyways, she was responsible for that. The husband didn't really want her to maintain a friendship with Marissa. She does, anyways. She supports her through this because she knows that she didn't do this. And simultaneously, towards the end of the series, we find out that this whole time, the reason why he hasn't been able to participate is he's doing this after school class that all of the students are really enjoying. I already knew that was a lie. This guy is a total nerd. But his wife pulls up on him scrolling TikTok, scrolling reels. And you know what his response is? His response is that you're welcome. I thought that you needed more time with your child and with our child. And so I gave you that. You should be around more. And by me acting like I was at this class, that's true. There was a class, but then the kids thought it was boring. They ended up not coming. But I thought, this is great. You should be this involved with our son. This is how it's supposed to look for me. I'm supposed to be hands off. You're supposed to be hands on. Anytime somebody plays up their busyness, but you don't see them being busy, not in all situations, men, they're not busy. They're scrolling or jerking. I don't exactly remember what happens to Jenny's husband at the end. Maybe they get divorced, but I think she should have managed his allergy for him as well. This was a great show. Lots of themes, lots of things to take away about wealth, the elite, the resources that they have access to. Oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. I'm missing a really huge theme. Let me keep scrolling down. I know I have to have this in here. So let me pull up the cast again. Hold on. So the detective Michael Pena, his son has a condition where I'm not sure if he was nonverbal, but he required care around the clock. He was never going to be independent and living on his own or having a job. They were going to be his caretakers forever. And he deserved or required to have a schooling and to have a school that had enough teachers assistants and enough staff to take care of every child and every child's specific set of needs appropriately. And we see glimpses of his son in school, and that's absolutely not what's happening. It's probably the reality of situations, which I think this is amplifying how they reserve appropriate quality care that every child should have access to for only the elite who have the means to get in there. Or for him, for example, there's a lottery. And first of all, the hoarding and the scarcity of only having one spot and it being a lottery for one child to be taken on as a new student at this school. Um, it's gross. It's gross because, as stated, there are many children who need this help and are trying to get there but can't. But he is offered the option from the dean who says, listen, if you want to get in the school, then the dean's son just got in trouble, got found with some pills, swap that out, and you'll get him in. And so he's battling with this decision. At first, he tells him to go F himself. I don't know who you think I am. I don't know who you think you are. But then ultimately, after picking his son up from school one day, and again, there was one teacher in the classroom, there was at least 16 kids who require attention. There was certainly nothing being taught or like the accurate activities which could be both stimulating or soothing. It just wasn't appropriate. And she greets him when he walks in the door by commending him and praising his son for being so quiet and for being so easy and an angel these last 3 hours. And my alarms went up immediately because having worked with children closely and having worked with children closely who have a variety of needs, if a child can't express their needs to me and their demeanor has changed and typically they require my attention and for some reason they aren't, warning bells should go off. And so he looks, and sure enough, his son's undergarments are soiled. And the teacher didn't notice. All she's saying to him is, your son was so great. He's an angel. And he's having to take his son, who has been sitting there and at least 3 hours, soiled with no care, no cleaning, and probably feeling embarrassed, but can't express that, to the bathroom to clean him up. And this experience, that is when he said, I refuse to pick my son up again like this. If I can have the opportunity to get him into this other school, I'm going to do it. And so he did. He swapped the pills. But the fact that this is a reality, it's just gross. It's gross. I found this like a really like stark theme that really stood out to me watching because again, a lot of this is just mirroring situations that like women go through or parents who have children who have needs that need, like I said, around the clock care. Like it's just painful to know that this is a real experience. And I thought that this show, at the very least, was a good takeaway about weaponized male incompetence, elitism, hoarding resources, who has access to what in the justice system for education wise. But I really enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you watched it. Let me know if you will watch it now. Tell me your thoughts, and everybody have a great day. Thank you for talking with me.